Good morning, everyone. My name is Matt Quinn. I'm the Director of Government Relations and Communications for the Illinois Restaurant Association. I'd like to thank you for joining us for Get Ready for Summer, Learn Food and Drink Trends for Your Menu. Today's webinar is being broadcast in English, Spanish, and Mandarin Chinese. To listen in Spanish or Chinese, please use the interpretation button on your toolbar. This webinar is being presented by the Illinois Restaurant Association in conjunction with the Cook County Small Business Source. Now, as summer is right around the corner, today we'll hear seasonal food and drink trends to attract and serve your guests. There will also be a Q&A at the end to get your questions answered. Before we begin, I'd like to let everyone attending know that the Illinois Restaurant Association remains a resource to you as the hospitality industry continues to recover. Our staff is focused on providing guidance, assistance, and relief to restaurants, bars, caterers, event venues, and other hospitality businesses and allied partners throughout Illinois as we all work to emerge and operate fully again. We're sending regular email updates to thousands of operators around the state with what you need to know for your business, and you can sign up for those on our website. We also have a host of different resources and vendors that can assist you, information about current regulations, a pro bono legal network, and much more on our website. So now for today's webinar, you can use the Q&A button in your toolbar to post your questions at any time throughout the presentation. Or if you see another attendee has asked a question that you like, you can hit the thumbs up icon next to that question so we can see which are the most popular. I'll be watching the questions coming in, and we will do our best to get to as many of them as possible. At this time, I'd like to introduce our panelists and turn the floor over to them. With us today are Lisa Selman, Beverage Development Manager at Breakthrough Beverage, and Nicholas Gonring, North American Corporate Consulting Chef at Gordon Food Service. We're going to start today with Lisa Selman with Breakthrough Beverage. So Lisa, please go ahead and take it away.
Good morning, everybody. So if we can go to the next slide, we're going to get ready for summer. I'm going to talk about some of the beverage trends that we're seeing. So I work for a company called Breakthrough Beverage. We're a hometown distributor with 1,200 employees. We opened in 1946. We were formerly Wirtz Beverage, and then in 2017, we merged with Chalmers Sunbelt. And we are the oldest and most established distributor in the state of Illinois. We're in 17 states and Canada. We're constantly trying to grow. Our goal is to be the best distributor in North America. We have a lot of really amazing brands like Tito's, Kettle One, Crown Royal, Jack Daniel's, Don Julio, Red Bull, High Noon, Hendricks, and Macallan, and the list kind of goes on, but those are some of the staples and high movers. Next slide. So as Matt mentioned, my name is Lisa Selman. I'm the Beverage Development Manager for Breakthrough Beverage. It's kind of like a fancy term for like the beverage director. I really do most of the consulting for the Alchemy Room there. We have a 30-foot long bar that has 3 full cocktail stations. We see about 250 accounts a year, ranging from really small independent places up into like the Peninsula Hotel, Lettuce, and different things like that. I've been in the industry for 19 years. My last position, I was the director of beverage at the Hilton Chicago. We managed $40 million in F&B annually. And then I joined Breakthrough at the end of November. Next slide. And this is just an overview of what Alchemy Room looks like. All the way in the back where that huge TV is where the bar stations are. The room holds about 200 people. And then we have as many of our products as we possibly can display out. But we have so many products that it's really hard to make sure everything fits in all the shelves. Next slide. Okay. So trends that we're seeing right now, and just a little background for me is I've spent a third of my career in hotels and 2/3 in independent restaurants or opening. I've opened almost, I think like 18 or 19 places in my career. What we're really seeing right now is obviously everybody's having staffing shortages. I'm sure you're experiencing all of that. So different ways that we can focus more on the guest during service and transferring our time. So we're seeing a lot more batching, kegged cocktails, and bottled cocktails. And I think the consumer now is realizing that batching cocktails is not sacrificing quality. It's actually allowing for places to make more complex and complicated drinks because they can add all the ingredients beforehand and then just serve them during service instead of having a cocktail that might have 8 touches. During COVID, with so many people staying at home and probably being really bored, they have definitely tried new flavors, which is really cool. So I'm seeing now, even with the cocktail menus that we're doing, people are always asking for like lychee, passion fruit, prickly pear, guava. I think Saint Germain, I remember when Saint Germain came out and other elderflower liqueurs, it was really hard to get people to try them. And now it's one of those things that it's like so easy. People are calling for that. So I think right now we're seeing an increased willingness to try different things. So you can really put different things on your menu and see if they stick or not. Along with that though, too, people are still kind of sticking with the classic cocktails, but with the twist. Everybody's been seeing the espresso martini kind of blow up. I have pretty much made one on like every other cocktail menu I've been doing. The Paloma is also on a lot of cocktail menus too. I think people want to do something different than the margarita, and the Paloma is kind of right following suit behind that. And then the old fashioned, there's just so many variations of the old fashioned that you can do, and people really love that cocktail. Going into convenience, people are doing a lot more of the ready to drinks. A lot of places are closing down like their room service, or they're having like little refrigerators to sell to go cocktails or ready to drinks. And then getting into like dehydrated garnishes. So again, kind of transferring your time and making sure that you're not throwing away any lemons or limes. You can dehydrate them and then use them as a cocktail garnish. And then you don't have to cut them every day. There's an increased focus on health and wellness. We're seeing a lot of spirit-free cocktails or zero proof products coming out. We just have a new product called Ritual. They're based out of Chicago. It was some parents that were just tired of feeling hungover and wanted to have fun still and have those similar flavor profiles that they're getting from other base spirits. They have a tequila, a rum, a whiskey, and a gin. And that allows you to do something that's either spirit free or zero proof, or you could do a lower ABV cocktail where you are maybe adding an ounce of something or 3/4 of an ounce of something to the cocktail. We're also seeing a lot of CBD drinks. Different people want to still imbibe and feel like they're having a drink, but maybe they're on different medication or they don't really want to drink or like the way that it feels. So having a CBD drink is also a great option. We have 4 brands right now in our portfolio that are really fun and have really unique flavors. And then a rise in caffeinated beverage. So we're seeing hard kombucha and then coffee espresso cocktails again. I don't know that the espresso martini is going away anytime soon. And then fun ways to win summer. So we have cocktail replacements. That's always an option too. If you're having a hard time having a cocktail menu or don't have bartenders that are really interested in making cocktails, cocktail replacements are also a great option. Or if you are selling to go cocktails or different things like this is something that is also easy. The CBD drinks, canned wine, and then seltzers. So we're seeing High Noon is growing crazy. Everywhere I go, I see like every time I go grocery shopping, I see at least like 6 people taking the High Noons. And I think it's great because it's lower in calories. People know exactly what they're getting. I know a lot of people might have like 1 or 2 drinks and then they're like, they don't want to stop drinking altogether. So High Noon is a great option to either start off your night or end your night and still participate. And I think the great thing about seltzers or cocktail replacements, you can put them on a different portion of your menu. So people know that you do have them. Like seltzers are very similar to kind of having like a beer. So it's not taking away from another option. I think it's really just about figuring out where to price it, where you don't price it out of reach for a consumer that knows how much it costs when they go to the grocery store or the liquor store. Next slide. Okay. So the Dirty Shirley. I don't know if this is going to be the next drink of summer. It's been getting a lot of popularity throughout the US. I was in Vegas shooting some cocktail videos last week, and the team of beverage development managers for Breakthrough was there, and we were all talking about different trends that we're seeing. And one of them is the Dirty Shirley. So it's just kind of like a Shirley Temple, but you're adding vodka and a little bit of lime juice. It's kind of like a cherry limeade almost at that point. And then some cocktail making best practices. So these are some of the things that I think are super helpful. If I could give you any tips and tricks, I think you should always start off small and strategic. Being authentic is huge. I know that there's so many places that I go to, and I go there specifically for the type of food that they're passionate about or the drinks that they're passionate about. And I want those flavors that I can only get there. So having something that's only maybe like 4 cocktails, but it's really truly authentic to your establishment is great. Again, starting off small and building your skills. It's really intimidating for bartenders sometimes. If you have a huge cocktail menu, they have to learn all of it at the same time. So starting off small is always easier, and then building up the skills. And that's an easy way for you to start elevating your cocktail and keep adding like one more ingredient or one more skill set. Don't overcomplicate your ingredients or prep. I think that's the thing that I see a lot, is that people have so many things in their drinks that they're wasting a lot of products, or they decided that they want to make all of their own syrups and fresh juice. And it's just so much work when people are working 10 or 12 hours already to have them come in and prep another hour or two. And now we have so many amazing products for syrups and different options like that that we didn't have 10 years ago. So there's so many ways that you can substitute a great ingredient and save yourself some time. I would start off with, if you do want to do a cocktail menu, like 4 to 6 solid cocktails. You can always add more or take things off depending on what people are drinking. But I think starting off small and figuring out where you're at and doing those really well and never running out of them is a great starting point. Finding a way to cross-utilize ingredients from the kitchen to the bar is also really smart. Anytime I look at what the food menu is first, usually before I start making a cocktail menu, and I figure out if they're using basil or mint, if I can cross-utilize that, or maybe there's a really fun spice that we can make an easy, simple syrup out of. And then that just kind of ties in the kitchen into the bar as well. As far as your menu, when you look at it, I would tell you that you should figure out how to balance your cocktails by base spirit. So making sure that you have a variety of different base spirits to appeal to different people. So vodka, tequila, and whiskey are going to be your top 3 that you should definitely have. And then finding a way to round out your menu by adding other spirits that customers like or that fit your concept. Are you in a place that people constantly ask for rum or cognac, gin, pisco? Figuring out what works for you. Other ways to make your menu stand out is having various glassware, whether it's a rocks glass, having short glasses, tall glasses, some glasses or some cocktails that have ice in them, some that are shaken that have no ice, and then various garnishes. And the garnishes you can think about, instead of just doing a lime wedge, maybe you start doing a lime wheel. That makes a huge impact on what people are getting, and making sure that your garnishes are fresh. I know when I go out, a lot of times I get limes that are so brown, and you know that like they cut them like 5 days ago, and it's just not super appealing. And then execution. So measuring with a jigger for accuracy and consistency. People come back to restaurants because they know that they're always getting the same thing. They come back because they love your chicken dish or your steak and the way that you cook it. The same thing goes with cocktails. So making sure that you're using a jigger is huge. I had a cocktail last week and the bartenders weren't using jiggers, and it was so sweet because they didn't make sure that they were balancing out the citrus with the sugar. So I didn't order another cocktail there and went somewhere else. Batching cocktails in bottles or in kegs is also a great option for consistency if you're running low on staff, or you have very green bartenders, or you have a lot of servers that are now crossing over into bartending or don't do it frequently. You can batch a large cocktail, and then you know that they're pouring the same ingredients every time. And then making sure you have a lead bartender or manager that is quality controlling cocktails before they go out and holds the staff accountable. That's a huge thing, because staying on top of people, making sure they're doing everything consistent is huge. Because I know that like even there's certain managers that I worked with, every time I like chew gum, I think, oh, I shouldn't be chewing gum because it's not sanitary if you're behind a bar. And I always had a manager that constantly said that to us. So making sure that you're there telling them what they need to do, and setting the standard. If they didn't garnish it, tell them what the garnish is, or having like a little sheet by the cocktail well that tells them what cocktail goes with what ingredient. So if the servers are doing it, or any of the support staff is running drinks, that everybody's doing it the same. And then just keep up with training and pre-shifts. That's the only way that you'll stay consistent. And starting off small, the best way to create a balanced cocktail is the 2-1-1. So 2 parts of whatever spirit of your choice, 80 to 100 proof. Most spirits are really in between like the 80 to 85 proof. Fresh citrus, using lemon or lime juice, 1 part of that. If you can do one thing to make your cocktail program amazing, it's always fresh juicing. If you can juice lemons and limes every other day, you can get about 72 hours out of fresh lemon or lime juice. And then after that, it gets so sour that your cocktail is not going to be very balanced. I would tell you to do that. If that isn't an option, or you don't have enough staff, you can get pasteurized citrus, something like Natalie's. It is more tart. So just know that you're going to have to back down the citrus a little bit, or up the sugar a bit more to balance the tartness out. And then 1 part sugar syrup. One of the things that I see, a lot of people will take a cup of water and then they'll take a cup of sugar. There's a lot, those are not equal. There's a lot of little air pockets in the sugar, and making sure that you're weighing it on a scale is the only way to make sure that you're getting a 1-to-1 ratio on your sugar. Because every time you make a cocktail, you want to know that your citrus is the same, the sugar is roughly the same, instead of having to constantly figure out if you need to add more citrus or add more sugar. And then these are a really great option to elevate your cocktail program. So the Riel syrups, I want to say they're just under $7 for a 16.9 ounce bottle. They come in all of these different flavors that you see. And so it's really easy. So you could pick, like, let's say I'm going to pick whiskey. I'm going to do 2 parts whiskey, 1 part of the Riel peach puree syrup, and then 1 part fresh lemon juice. That's a really easy cocktail to execute. If you want to elevate it, maybe you add some fresh mint, or you can add another liqueur, like a 1/4 ounce or a 1/2 ounce of another flavor if you wanted to. And then if the alchemy room sounds right for you, you can just reach out to your breakthrough sales rep, and then your sales rep will reach out directly to me to book a time about whatever you need. We do a couple different types of trainings and development. So we can do a full development where we develop all the cocktails for you. We can do a collaborative where you're behind the bar and I will help you kind of bring your ideas to fruition. Or there's a self-development where you feel like you have a pretty good handle on everything and you really just need the space. We have all the syrups, all the juice. I fresh juice every day for everybody. And then all of our alcohol is there too, so you don't have to waste any products while we figure out your recipes. And then we do different trainings for whether it be based on our spirits that we carry. So if we can train your staff more about the products that you have, they're more likely to sell them, especially if you have a lot of products that are not moving. Going through bar techniques to show them how to have less spillage and some of the basics on how to use the tools, so there's less waste as well. And then we have an amazing Japanese specialist as well that came over from Tenzing, and he does sake, soju, and also sherry as well. So we have a bunch of different options and resources to help you reach your goals.
Awesome. Thanks. Thank you, Lisa. Really great advice and insights. You're giving me some really good ideas for the next time that I host a party. So I appreciate it. Before we turn it over to Nicholas, just want to remind everyone. Oops, sorry, I just muted myself. You can ask questions at any time using our Q&A function. If you have any questions for Lisa, for Nicholas, please send them in. You know, these are the experts, and they're here to help and here to share their insights. So send them in at any time during the presentation or during the Q&A session. So now we will turn it over to Nicholas Gonring with Gordon Food Service. Nicholas, you want to take it away?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. If you want to jump into the next slide, as Matt said, I'm Nick Gonring. I'm the North American Corporate Consulting Chef for Gordon Food Service. And just a really quick high-level agenda here. We're going to talk about our research process for Gordon Food Service, what that means from a culinary perspective, and we'll translate that into the resources that we create thereafter. And then while you're obviously on this call, we're going to talk about the trends that we're going to talk about briefly and take a deeper dive on some of the plate presentations and things that we've seen specific to research. And there's a lot to unpack. So we've got 20 minutes and we're going to get this thing done. And without further ado, let's go to the next slide. So street level research, what does that mean? Well, basically for the past 20 years at Gordon Food Service, we have been visiting the 3 largest trend driving cities in the US, which is New York, LA, and Chicago. And we go there for a reason, basically because they are, like I said, the 3 largest cities, but they open up more restaurants than any other cities in the US do. And for us, we are specifically targeting new restaurants that open because for us, they are the idea incubators that we want to go and check out and see. Oftentimes trends translate really early, and we can capture that, take that back to our headquarters and figure out what that means to create resources. So from a new restaurant perspective, what you're seeing here, these logos, these are how we keep the pulse of the industry going as far as what restaurants are opening, because that's very important to us. And so throughout the course of the year, we make a list. It's not a scientific process, but these providers here, digital media, publications, things in print, allow us to stay ahead a little bit about what has been opening and transpiring in these great cities. And then we take a list of, in total, of all these restaurants that had opened between the 3, and we figure out where we're going to go. Next slide. And so this is kind of visual to show what we do here quickly. But from all of the cities that we vet out, the new restaurants that have opened, we have about 500 targets that we select from. And I can tell you that's a pretty small number in theory, because just New York last year, I can tell you that New York had opened up more than 250 restaurants last year alone. But we look at those 500 target lists that we feel that might be possibilities for us to go visit. And then we do a deep dive and vet them out further, looking at their social media, what's been happening on there. You know, some praises that are out there, some accolades, some things that have been in the press, talking about things that have been successful from their menus. And then we had to whittle that number down to 120 restaurants. So quick math will tell you that we visit 40 restaurants in those 3 different cities. And that's over a 15-day working period. So 3 weeks time, 120 restaurants. And logistically, it is a lot to dive into. You look at that map in New York, we visit 2 boroughs, being just Manhattan and Brooklyn specifically, because that's where most of the activity is. And then the logistical planning of figuring out going from A to B, 40 restaurants in 5 days is a tough nut to crack. But collectively, we taste about 1,200 dishes while we're out doing this research in 15 working days between New York, LA, and Chicago. And it's not to be gluttonous for any sort of imagination. It's really just for us to document and try to figure out what that all means. So next slide, please. Basically, when we're there, we have a photographer that comes with us. We shoot every photo at the table that comes out, or shoot every plate that comes out at the table for us, so we can document our process. We scan every menu while we're there. Even in today's time, there are QR codes, but there are also table menus that often don't reflect what's online. So it's important for us to capture what we see visually at the table to make sure we have that as a reference point. And we're talking to anybody that's willing to talk to us about their branding concept. And at the end of the day, we take back, you know, those 1,200 plates of food and do a deck format, and we break it down to figure out what it all means between the East Coast, West Coast, and in between. So for us, it's trying to identify things in repetition, and I often translate that to kind of detective work, things that are new that we have seen in sequence between those 3 cities that we can then identify and say, hey, these are new opportunities for us that we haven't had on our radar before. And here's the credence behind it. We have all these examples that are street level. That is a unique approach that we can offer our customers to find different direction and then consultations on their menus. And here we are, resources We have almost 10,000 recipes that we have created and published internally that our sales and marketing teams have and help our customers. They're all driven off our research process. But we'll go to the next slide. We'll jump into the trends here. Before we jump into that, we'll just say quickly, this last past year in Chicago, we visited 44 new restaurants and we tasted 390 dishes. This is a photo from Bar Avec. And then in New York, we visited 38 new concepts and we tasted 411 dishes when we were back there in December. And then we'll go to the next slide and we'll jump into the first thing that I'm going to talk about, which is Mediterranean cuisine. And if you look at this map here, these are the concepts that we did visit between just New York and Chicago alone. We're going to LA here in just a few weeks. But the first thing I tell people about Mediterranean cuisine is that it's such a ripe opportunity. And I think it's also a misnomer to some folks because they don't understand the totality geographically. I think most people automatically assume that Mediterranean cuisine is just Greek and Italian, but it's so much more evolved than that. We're talking about 22 countries that go around the Mediterranean basin. We're talking about the Iberian Peninsula to North Africa, to the Maghreb region, to the Levant, and to the Middle East. We're talking about the western part of Eurasia to the Balkan Peninsula, upward to Croatia, Italy, Greece, and the southern part of France. That's what Mediterranean cuisine is. And the idea is that all these sort of countries have so much global breadth of flavor, and they all have an affinity for each other and how that can translate to your menu in combinations that work so well. And so that was an aha moment for us. So in total, we had 20 concepts that we visited out of the 82 or so that we have been to this last past year of Mediterranean specific restaurants that had opened. So that told us something in repetition, right? That is, we wanted to call that out. So some of the things that we talked about that we're going to talk about that we saw from research, we'll talk briefly about the spice trade. We'll get into probably my favorite thing, which I call rips and dips. We saw a huge movement in pita pockets thanks to the pita Sabiche and the pita Arraiz that have had its claim to glory with portability going on through COVID. Meze has been a big movement of all of this, right? That shared dining experience, like shared plates, like tapas. Meze is that in Mediterranean cuisine. So a lot of consumers are trying to get back to the usual dining with they're trying to have that experience again. So basically they want to be able to break bread with their neighbor again. They want to celebrate things. They want to go to restaurants. They want to share food. And a lot of that is they don't want to spend $35 on just one entree. They want to split that up and have 4 or 5 things and have everybody reciprocate at the table to do the same, to have that experience through a lot of different global flavors and tastes. Next slide. So when we talk about spice trade, I think the easiest way to dip your toe in the water through Mediterranean cuisine is through spices, right? There's no labor here. They're invested for you. This is done up for you. These are spices that we sell. And so if you look at it quickly, right, all these you might have heard of or you've seen, but if you think through it, it's something you can add to a marinade very quickly. You can add to vegetables for veg-centric menus and go into sauces and dips. It's a +1 to your advantage not have to make in-house and to use these, but to put this description on your menu that you're putting that angle towards Mediterranean focus or Mediterranean cuisine. Next slide. So on to rips and dips. And basically, like I said, this is what I'm probably most passionate about from the Mediterranean side, because we really saw a big movement in a lot of chefs being super creative and doing different dips and spreads tables for that dining experience to evolve, for people to taste new food, and for oftentimes chefs to be creative using what they have in the back of their house to their advantage, that larder that they already have in their cooler, being creative with what they have for ingredients to cross-utilize. And I think the sweet spot for this when we approach summer, right? Patio season opens up. You've got more seats that you have to worry about, right? Quicker ticket times is becoming focused. And with rips and dips, the dip side of it, right? Most of these are cold applications. So you can do these in bulk. You can get ahead on it. They are quick ticket times you can pump out because you're just plating these things. So it really helps out the hotline on the kitchen. A lot of restaurants we've seen that using this as a retail avenue. So they have dips and spreads in the front of the house. They're selling out of a grab and go cooler, right? It's great for portability to get out the door and also put on your menu, obviously. So this is a great way to cross-utilize ingredients and turn over inventory faster to improve profitability. But we'll look at some examples here. So this is Fanny Matty in Brooklyn. Some usual suspects here from our research that you might see, like baba ganoush and tzatziki. The call out here is really from Mahamara. If it's not been on your radar, it's becoming pretty hot right now. It's a red pepper dip that's blended with olive oil, pomegranate molasses, lemon juice, and then a lot of walnuts actually too. This example here from Mama Delia, which is great. I love it because it's an example of brandade, which is typically made with salt cod and potatoes, but they're using mackerel here, a mackerel conserva, which is a tinned seafood. And they're selling this as retail in front of their house, but they're also using it as an ingredient in the back. So Spanish concept, they sell wines, vinegars, hams, and even conservas and tinned seafood in the front that they're using as an ingredient. Next slide. This is a great example of a meze style collection from Andres Taverna in Logan Square. And what you're seeing here are not the usual suspects of spreads and dips. Santorini fava bean hummus, scordelia with octopus. Scordelia is made with potato puree. Terra masalata, that's whipped cod roe with olive oil, lemon juice, and either breadcrumbs or potatoes. And you look at the brochettes and olives, crudité, cheese, right? Such a wonderful thing to share. When I referenced $35 before for an entree, people want to spend $32 for something like this and share it with 4 people, and then get 3 or 4 more things to share and experience all these things they never tasted before. Next slide. At Restaurant Chouquette, this is kind of the idea where Rips and Dips came from. This is a snippet of their menu when we were there in New York. So you have, when you dip by dip, we rip, and rip this on their menu, right? And really it's a separation of spreads and breads, and I love it. And if you look at the descriptions on here, these are unique things. So it's unique experiences their customers get to have the benefit of, and they want to have all this stuff because they don't want to walk away, missing out on the experience. And this is something for differentiation, and nobody else is selling this down the street. And that's what people need to kind of keep in the back of their mind and use their creativity to their advantage. Next slide. Here's a couple examples from Chouquette. So this is their labna. Labna, of course, is your strained Greek yogurt, but they're making it more sophisticated with some layers and textures. They've got pomegranate Orioles, harissa seasoning on top, lime juice, lime zest, and scallions. Next slide. And their butternut squash chershi dish, a wonderful dish of caramelized, stewed down butternut squash with pomegranate molasses, a lot of olive oil in there, and then apricot preserves over the top, hazelnuts, and eartha pepper to finish, right? This is still plant-based. This is still vegan in its nature, but it's sophisticated and fun and different. We're going to transition here real quick to Korean street food. And if you haven't seen it by now, I know there's a few places in Chicago that have opened up, and we saw this out in New York back in December. But Korean corn dogs have been, all the rage into the close of 21, into 22. And basically, if you're not familiar with them in concept, they're really not corn dogs at all. The difference lies in the batter or what you're making in preparation of it. So there's no corn flour in it. Really, the difference is in the rice flour and the wheat flour that it's made and comprised of. And then it's leavened with yeast. And that really makes the difference. So it's crunchy and a chewier texture, not made with corn. And it gets wrapped around a hot dog and or with cheese, and then supplemented with different textural things before it hits the fryer. And then loads of flavor on top if you like. Typically, Korean corn dogs have a sweet and salty narrative. So it gets finished with dusted sugar, and that balances out some of the saltiness of the corn dog itself. And we'll show you some examples here. So before I guess jump into that, I just want to show you a visualization of something that I shot. So the first one on the left, that is like the batter, almost the dough that gets draped over it. The second one is the corn dog then going to like a breading procedure. This is just crunched up ramen noodles. And that goes from there into the fryer, comes out golden brown there. And the one in the back is just using diced potatoes for a textural element before it hits the fryer. Next slide. So the 3 concepts that we're going to show you here, this one's 2 hands. This is in New York. So I guess the differences from what you see between all of them are what I'm trying to highlight here. The sweetness that they're providing with the saltiness, and the first one on the left is that sweet ranch sauce, a little bit different. Think about your ranch powder packet, powdered sugar, water as a glaze, really simple. The next one, flaming hot Cheetos over the top, super whimsical, but everybody loves it. The one after that, the diced potato for textural element, and then a spicy aioli over the top. The fourth one is a crispy rice one, so rice pearls and that rice batter, like a double crunch. And the last one is just a straight up spicy beef. On to the next box. So at OK Dog, it's also in New York. Here's a couple different ones. So they have a squid ink half and half. It's got cheese in the middle as well. But they're using squid ink to put into the batter to make it black. And then very whimsically, they're taking a paring knife to put some incisions on the bottom part of the hot dogs. When it fries, it expands out to make it look like its namesake being a squid, which is fun. And then the second one, they're using sweet potatoes instead of regular diced potatoes. And the third one is just a call out of the dice here being different in the size comparison to the last one. Next slide. At Django Rice and Hot Dogs in Brooklyn, here's a couple different examples. So they're calling out, hey, this is an all beef. This is what we're doing for our dogs. A little bit larger hot dog than other places. They got sweet potato. You see the dice here in the first one. They have a spicy and chicken pork on the second one. The ramen dog, which is the idea that I took and showed you in that first slide. A standard beef and cheddar. And then some places weren't even having hot dogs. They're still calling them corn dogs. They're triple cheese. It's literally just filled with cheese, shredded cheese on top, and a cheese sauce to drape over the top as well. Jumping into frozen novelties, this will transition actually really well into beverage. So when we look at things, a lot of places, especially out in New York when we were visiting them, they had frozen novelties that was like a finishing statement on their menu as a dessert one-off. And it was the only thing that they were offering. So it was something to be said. They were making the demand. They were creating the demand in the driver's seat by offering something that nobody else had. And that was really cool. And we couldn't deny the fact that we didn't want to try it. So we had to get every one of these kind of one-offs that we saw, and putting that together. It's like, hey, there's some really cool things here to take back and to articulate further with folks, being like smoothies and slushies. You see the frozen bear there, frozen yogurt, things like that. And we'll show you some of these examples here. Restaurant Fuku, this is in New York. This is from David Chang, his growing empire of fast food or fast casual fried chicken sandwiches. But when you walk into the counter service that they have there, they have two of those big tumblers, 7-Eleven style things of other slushy machines that are rolling, only serving their Fuku Colada slushy. And I don't know if it's the circular motion that they have that you see that's propelling you through hypnosis to buy these things, but certainly everybody was buying them. Doesn't matter if it was December or not, people were grabbing these out the door. You look at the ingredients, right? Pineapple, orange juice, coconut cream, simple syrup, nutmeg. Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if you add rum, it's a painkiller. I'm not sure, but it teleports you anyway to someplace tropical. Middle of December, this was a great grab. Restaurant Edis, this is in Williamsburg in New York. Their iced coffee slushy, if you look at it for all the chefs on the call, you might say, hey, this looks broken, it looks separated. And I think they might have made this by mistake, but this is probably the most Instagrammable slushy of all time at this point. And the reason being is because the way it looks and the way it tastes. It's a cold brew slushy, the only slushy that they offered. But if you look at it, because cold brew is water-based, tahini and oat milk are plant-based fats, the way it freezes and circulates doesn't freeze the same. So you get this granulation effect that you see. That's why it looks kind of scattered in the cup. And when you put it through the straw and you taste it, it is like a creamy, just a different kind of texture that you would expect. And it made a really, really unique, experience to people trying these things. And that's why people get out the door to grab them. Two Hands, Korean place, still offering horchata slush. Who would have thought they would have one there? But we couldn't deny the fact that we had to try it. So different there. And then back at Shukat, which I think is the next slide. Yep, back at Shukat. So, the place with the rips and dips, they also had the mic drop soft serve, the only dessert they had on the menu. And candy butternut squash, their soft serve is made with tahini and oat milk as the base. And then it gets halva floss, which is a confectionery pulled sugar, really typical of Middle Eastern cuisine that you can just buy prefab. And then hazelnuts for texture on the top, right? You can't find this anywhere else, and that's the point, right? They're driving the demand. Restaurant Kamika, this is also in New York. This is a Japanese-Italian mashup concept in New York that was highly, highly successful this past year. Yakult is a Japanese probiotic milk drink that they use as the base here. The Shirokuma, this is in Chicago, Restaurant Gaijin. And their Shirokuma, this big shaved ice bear that comes out, everybody looks at it, goes to the dining room. All the garnishes, the caramelized coconut, the cookies for ears, the cherries for eyes, right? Table side, they pour over a little bit warmed up coconut syrup that goes over the top. And it's something you probably don't want to bring your kids to because it melts the nose off the bear's face and it goes all over the place. But everybody loves it though, right? It's so Instagrammable. Let's see this big bear come out. They get $13 for it. Such a wonderful, cool thing that everybody just loves. On to Zero Proof to kind of play off of some of Lisa's talking points. I always say the Zero Proof out in the youth. We're talking about Gen Z millennials. They're looking for beverage options through the day parts, especially AM and early PM hours that are not alcohol forward. They're looking for things that are healthy. They're looking for things that are nostalgic. They're looking for colors. They're looking for things that are functional. And so we'll break that down here, going to the next slide. The first thing I can tell you that I think it's easy enough is to use powders to your advantage. This is a visualization that we shot in our kitchen here at corporate. But the powders, if you look at the next slide, is really these sort of things, right? So bee pollen powder, matcha, pitaya, your dragon fruit powder, activated charcoal, butterfly pea flower powder, moon milk, cacao powder, spirulina. All these things have health attributes. They have also quick mixes into liquids that hydrate super fast. They can turn colors. Can also be used for various cooking applications, right? Pitaya you see in smoothie bowls, you see in overnight oats to make it turn purple. And we'll look at some of the examples here from research. But before we do that, one more call out on powders, and that's on the functional side of things, the adaptogenic powders. You might see them in coffee service today, especially, and that's when we're talking about mushroom powders like cordyceps, reishi, lion's mane, and chaga. and even ashwagandha. These are functional things that are scientifically proven that add like cognition, immunity boosting. They help fight off cancers. They improve your health in general or reduce stress, right? And people want to add these to their coffee service. So lemonade is probably the easiest way to jump into something to change, right? So if you're just offering lemonade and coffee and tea is what you have for your zero alc program, look at lemonade and make it different really quickly with something like the pitaya powder to do dragon fruit, or add it with, you know, iced tea to make a dragon fruit Arnold Palmer. That butterfly pea powder will turn your lemonade purple just with a quick addition. And then, at Kasama in Chicago, a wonderful Filipino restaurant that opened up, their calamansi lemonade. Calamansi is pretty much like the flavor of a Meyer lemon meets a tangerine meets a lime. And that was probably the best lemonade I've ever had in my life. I would run there and get that every day. Matcha is not dead. Matcha Cita opened up this last past year in Chicago. The Yuzu Matcha Lemonada was great. Gaijin Matcha Lemonade. And then things like agua frescas are super simple to execute, right? Fruit juices, sugar, agave nectar, water. Restaurant Uncooked, I still say smoothies aren't dead. A great place to add a host of ingredients that are plus ones that people are willing to pay for to customize. So things like ashwagandha come into the fold here, turmeric, MCT oil, medium chain triglycerides, Irish moss, your protein powders. But the next slide, I mean, what you can do here is customize too. All their coffee and smoothie service. So the lion's mane, things like that come into the fold for plus ones. This is their retail look. So you see their cold brew with lion's mane. You see their activated charcoal in their lemonade. Their cider with making their own kind of like tonic in-house on a retail format. Such a wonderful offering. And then even at Wake and Bacon with the Filipino slant here, they're using ube powder or an ube mix to do that floater kind of separation of their purple haze. So with the oat milk and the iced coffee topper. But that was kind of rapid fire, but we're trying to give you as much as we can here in 20 minutes time. And I appreciate hanging with me, and certainly there's time for questions. So.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Very hungry and thirsty after watching all of that. As a reminder, you can ask your questions at any time. We're now in our Q&A session, so we'll get to as many as we can. But please, any questions, any clarifications needed from Lisa and Nick, shoot your questions in now, and we'll get to as many of them as we can. So let's start off here. Lisa and Nick, if you have anything to share, please. Other than espresso martinis, are there any other martinis making a comeback?
I'm getting asked for a lot of lychee martinis. There's many Italian concepts opening. So we've been doing a lot of twist on cosmopolitans by subbing out vodka with orange cello or a peach cello, or making it sparkling by adding a little floater of Prosecco. And then I think you're seeing the daiquiri and the gimlet come back a little bit more too as well. What I like to do is for a daiquiri, I'll take the Real guava and the Real passion fruit syrup and I mix them together. And I do 2 parts rum and then 1 part lime to 1 part the passion fruit guava. And that's a really great, easy, tropical summer daiquiri. And then again, the gimlet as well. Typically I'm seeing it made with gin and people are using basil, or we have a really cool basil eau de vie as well. If you don't have fresh basil, that's a great option as well.
Great, thanks, Lisa. Nick, anything to add on your own? I think you're muted.
It's only been 2 years of this virtual thing. I still can't hit the unhit the mute button. No, I mean, I agree with what she's saying entirely. And I think I hold her opinion much more accountable than me on the beverage side of things. So I would definitely go with her lead. But, you know, sometimes simple is key. So looking what you might have to articulate or further enhance strengths. I like what Lisa, what you talked about earlier too, just with using the ingredients that you have in the back of the house to implement some changes with syrups and different herbs and aromatics and kind of partnering with your culinary team. So I just wanted to add that as well.
Thanks, Nick. So another question, I think, Nick, this will be more for you. What are a few simple food items that we can start adding to our menu that won't overwhelm the chef and team?
Yeah, so I mean, I think I think a lot of the balance of your menu, that yin and yang, right, is hot and cold. So, I mean, I think it starts with looking at preparation and labor and trying to pare down things that might be cold offerings that are going to totally streamline things. We talked about it briefly on those like rips and dips. I think that's the right place to be able to put things on your menu because you can prep ahead, right? You can do cold foods out the door a lot quicker. Even simple things like elevating your salad game a little bit further, right? Those are just enhancements of ingredients that you might be able to cross utilize elsewhere and kind of build and to layer on flavors and textures. So, I mean, I don't think there isn't a, a special answer here that's going to release, an automatic upgrade to your menu. It's really just kind of looking through what you have done and established right now to be able to change and to fortify and also to streamline. And I think once you kind of had that nut cracked, you can look back at your ingredients, maybe look at cross-utilizing some things further to enhance, especially if you're open for different day parts.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And then Lisa, kind of same question to you. What if, my restaurant only serves beer and wine and we have no cocktails, but we're going to add 3 cocktails to the menu? What are like simple cocktails that you'd recommend that aren't going to overwhelm the bartenders?
I think always having like lemon and lime juice gives you great options. The Riel syrups, having a couple different flavors of those as well. We say the shelf life on those is about 3 months once they're open. Typically, you're getting them and they're good for about a year and a half once we ship them to you. And then making sure you have like the usual suspects of vodka, rum, gin, tequila, whiskey, wake and bacon that Nick mentioned. That's kind of how they do their concept because they're a really fast casual. They do their breakfast and lunch, and that's pretty much it. So anything that goes into their cocktails, they also have, it has to be not a flavored product. So if somebody wants a vodka soda, they're able to do that really quickly. If they book a private event, they have all of the spirit categories as well. And they just keep it really simple. You don't have to overcomplicate it. You don't have to have fresh mint and basil and things that perish really quickly. And just keeping with that 2-part spirit to 1 part citrus to 1 part sugar. If you have a couple different options, honestly, like if somebody comes in and says, I want this flavor profile, you are able to easily execute it. And you're not going to have a lot of waste because the bartender is unsure how to mix them. Or, I mean, I know when I first started bartending, I'd taste stuff and be like, oh, that tastes like disappointment. How did I even make that? So, and I definitely wasted a lot of things when I was first learning how to bartend. So following that guide, if somebody would have told me that this is how it is easily executable, that would have been really helpful.
Great advice. And what are some low sugar summer cocktails that you're seeing and that you'd recommend?
It's always a tough one. I mean, I think that's why High Noon is so popular because people know exactly what they're getting. They know how many calories it has in it, carbs, if they're counting their macros or different things like that. Agave is always a great option because it's lower on the glycemic index. So a lot of people that are counting macros or sugars, that's really helpful. You could always pare down a cocktail into like, you can do the 0 proof cocktails where you maybe do an ounce of a 0 proof spirit. They're like 10 calories for that. And then you add either like a fortified wine or a sherry, vermouth, or only doing 3/4 of an ounce of alcohol. So it's getting you into that lower ABV. So that will help. I've tried to use like stevia or different things like that, and they all taste weird. So it's really hard unless you have that demographic that specifically takes sugar out of their diet that likes that flavor. Yeah, so I honestly, I would go like the lower ABV route because you don't have to use as much sugar personally.
Understood. So, Nick, question for you. Are there certain items, I know this is broad, but like, are there certain food menu items, product costs that are particularly expensive right now that, you would recommend that people avoid or maybe, take off their menu if they're really concerned about, those product costs?
Well, I think we all know the inflation where we're at with that. As we said, even on the consumer side of things, right? Inflation is reality. But when we're looking at things, especially like proteins, that's probably where the most drastic change comes into effect. So if you're not really keeping true costs on your plate costs, you can really get out of whack pretty quickly, especially when we're talking about protein. So first is making sure that your costs are appropriate to understand, and then you can make changes from there. But I think a sweet spot is when you look towards vegetable-centric, plant-based cuisine to be able to implement, because those changes in inflation are not as drastic when we're talking about meat costs. So when I say that, I'm not necessarily talking about plant-based products per se. I'm talking about like vegetable cookery and being thoughtful about what you're doing in preparation of that. So a lot of like a great example would be Restaurant Bloom in Chicago, which I'm a huge fan of. They're doing plant-based, the best I've ever seen and tasted. They're just being really, careful about their menu execution, and they're not using prefab product. They're just using a lot of vegetables, a lot of really great healthy ingredients, and being thoughtful about their preparations. They're also gluten-free and vegan as well. Their whole menu is in concept, but they say their number one success with what they're doing is because they don't have to bear the costs as much as other restaurants that are buying meats and proteins, and because they can be more affordable, and their inflation doesn't really hit their bottom line as much because they were talking vegetables, produce.
All right, thanks, Nick. And then Lisa, on your end, on this spirit side, alcohol side, are there things that are really kind of through the roof right now that you might want to ease back on, or just things to be aware of in terms of how inflation is hitting the spirit side of things?
I think there's not that much inflation. I mean, you're going to see it with whiskey. I think the biggest struggle that we're facing right now is just out of stock issues in the supply chain. So a lot of distilleries aren't getting bottles to fill up the liquid, or they're having a huge issue getting trucks to actually ship to us. So I've been in the industry for 19 years, and this is the first time that I've seen where I just couldn't get stuff. And it's continuing to happen, and things are getting stuck in customs a lot longer too. I think the big thing about making sure that your costs are in line are how much alcohol do you have in your cocktails, and finding ways to swap out with more cost-effective items. So we have a really great source. If you're set up with Breakthrough, called Breakthrough Now, you can type in passion fruit and it will give you, 6 different types of passion fruit liqueurs. And you can say, okay, well, that one's at $30 a bottle and I'm using an ounce of this liqueur. Does that make sense if I can get a similar flavor profile from a syrup that only cost me $7? So swapping out items like that, making sure for the most part, I do 1.5 ounces of base spirit in a cocktail. I think that's what most people expect. If you can, I tried to put everything that's on my cocktail under $35 for a liter for the base spirit. And I try to stay at around $2 my cost for a cocktail if I want to price it at $10 to get a 20% return. So, or 20% beverage cost. So I think the goal is always to have a 20% beverage cost. Typically, if you have higher end spirits, you're going to end up in that 25% range. If you do a lot of banquets or anything else, like at Hilton, I had to run a 14.5% beverage cost, which was crazy. So kind of just figuring that out. I also have a really great Excel spreadsheet if anybody needs that as well, where you can plug all of your information into that. It will price out the cocktail and then tell you the suggested selling price if you want to be at an 18, 20, 22% cost as well. That's really helpful.
Awesome. Great tips. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, Nick. Question for Nick. Do you consult with restaurants if they're currently Gordon customers, or what if they're not currently customers and they're thinking about it?
Yeah, I mean, I do on a case-by-case basis, but I think that the biggest thing to point out is that we have 40 regional chefs in our footprint that are really the boots on the grounds to help our customers. So my real job is to provide direction to them through research, through recipe channels, right? To be able to give them the ammunition to be able to have those consultative conversations with you, whatever the need might be, right? So depending on where you're at, I mean, we've got several regional chefs in the Illinois state, and elsewhere in our footprint, of course. So, I mean, that would be kind of the avenue that I would go with there, and I can work on a project with them remotely if it's in Illinois or whatever it might be. But we have certainly a lot of people to help along the way in the process to turn menus and to help consult with back the house. So
Great. Thank you, Nick. And then similar for Lisa, if I'm interested in the alchemy room or like getting involved or checking that out as a breakthrough customer, can I do that, or how does that work?
Yeah, so if you're not a breakthrough customer yet and you're just opening up, we have a special team that opens all the new places, and they would book through me as well. And then if you're currently a breakthrough, if you reach out through your rep, it's free to come in. We are located in Cicero. We do 2 sessions, Monday through Thursday, typically, one from 10 to 1 and another one from 2 to 5. The goal is that, that you'll use our products on your menu. We also are mindful that we want to make sure you do have the right products. So if you have any dead stock or anything like that, we will try to figure out a way to incorporate that. We want you to be as successful as possible. We just would hope that you don't take all of our recipes and swap them out with other people's products.
Yeah, absolutely. So a question for both of you. First, I'll ask Nick, and then Lisa. Are there products, again, broad, but whatever's coming to mind? Are there first, Nick? Are there food offerings that have just fallen off the map in popularity that, like, if you're trying to get this going again, maybe avoid or rethink? Anything that's coming to mind there?
I mean, gosh, I would say things like, you look at like sauces through time, like if you're still thinking about sriracha, it's maybe a little passe at this point, right? So thinking through like the next elevation, what that might be, like moving on to things like harissa, moving on to different chilies that are going to impact different flavor transitions, I think, with global flavors. So I'm trying to think of like better examples of things that have fallen off. And I talk about, when we're talking about rips and dips, I always say that's like beyond hummus. So if you're doing things that are like just a standard hummus, get out of the mindset of saying, hey, I'm going to switch out chickpeas to use different, pulses or lentils or, other beans that I might have in the back of the house that I already have, I'm using for something else. And that's going to be my base of hummus, right? And so just thinking through that outlet of how to change maybe what's existing into something different and turn that corner, but to be creative and then just try to cross utilize and pull through more ingredients. So not quite probably the best articulated answer in the world, but I think it hopefully provides some direction.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Lisa, what would you say on the beverage side?
I think before, people felt like they really had to have a balanced cocktail menu of shaken versus stirred. So I think a lot of people were doing more stirred cocktails or a lot more bitter cocktails, at least in the city of Chicago. But when you look at your P mix and you see that people are not drinking as many bitter cocktails, making sure that you're kind of swapping out and giving your customers what they want, or trying new flavors to capture more guests and get 3 or 4 drinks. And then I think just being more conscious and aware of how you're naming cocktails, or I definitely think the Irish car bomb, for one, is something that's very insensitive. And a lot of people, having ran an Irish bar before too, just making sure that you're being aware of how other drink names could make somebody else feel as well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we're getting close to our time here. Want to ask you both just one final question. If I'm a restaurateur, I'm on the webinar right now, and I'm really interested in getting involved with Breakthrough, getting involved with Gordon, or getting more involved and more engaged and getting those consultations. What is the best way for me to go about doing that? So Lisa and then Nick.
Okay. So the best thing to do is reach out to your Breakthrough rep first. They have all of my contact information, and they will send me an email and let me know that you are interested in booking the Alchemy Room. If for some reason you don't have a sales rep and maybe you are calling in your orders, you can go online to Breakthrough Beverage Illinois, and then you can find the Alchemy Room once you scroll down, and there's a way that you can put in a request, and then our admin will then reach out directly to me, and then I'll be able to respond back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. Nick?
Similarly, gfs.com is where I'd start. If you're a current customer and, starting with your sales rep or your CDS and working your way down, we do have our marketing team to help you. So our regional culinary specialists or regional chefs at your disposal to help consult with your menu. And then we have business solutions folks as well to kind of help out in the front of the house side of things, to tag team, to make your operation, more more consistent or whatever you're looking for. And certainly we have all the disposal of all the recipes and things at our fingertips from a marketing and sales side of things that we talked about earlier with that 10,000 recipe bank that we have. So whatever we can do to help, but yeah, reach out.
Perfect. Thank you, Nick. Well, it looks like we're right at the end of our time. I'd like to thank you all for attending and thank our panelists, Lisa Selman, Beverage Development Manager at Breakthrough Beverage, and Nicholas Gonring, North American Corporate Consulting Chef at Gordon Food Service. I'd also like to thank the Cook County Small Business Source for their continued efforts to provide resources, information, and technical assistance to small businesses throughout the county to help with their recovery. Following the conclusion of the webinar, attendees will receive an email with links to the webinar recording as well as the presentation. The recording will also be made available on the Illinois Restaurant Association's website, so please feel free to check it out there as well as many other resources for Illinois restaurants, hospitality businesses, and allied partners. Thank you all for attending and have a great day.